Coach, you mentioned the other night that the team's frustrated, obviously, with how things are going. How do you get that out of them? How do you work through that and get these guys mentally in a place to get their confidence back, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah, I think it's the question, right? I don't think it's a simple answer. Well, it probably is simple in an answer, but the process isn't so simple because the frustration stems from certainly not finding the results that you want to find. That's frustrating. There is some things that, from an effort standpoint, that have been very admirable, like the way that they're coming into practice, trying to do the right things. So there's some things there that create more. You make a great effort, you try to improve some things, and then you don't find the result right away. That can be frustrating. But so those types of things are creating frustration for sure. And the third thing I'd say is when there's a high level of care. Like I'll talk about character here in a second, but there's a high level of care in our locker room amongst our team and coaching staff. And so when you care at a high level, and again, you feel like you're not reaching the standard, that's frustrating. So there's some frustration there. How do you turn the page? One, there's some things that we're doing that have been pretty good and that we've seen some improvement and seen some success. Like I think offensively, we're executing better in stretches. Guys are starting to play more confidently in stretches. We have to continue to do the things we've been doing the last 3 weeks to try to continue to get back to being a good offensive team. And I have a lot of faith in our guys. I believe in our guys a lot. It's due now for multiple guys to play well on the same night offensively, right? It was great to see Jizzle bust out and have moments where he looks like Jizzle James as an offensive player and a scorer. In the last game, I think it'll come together here where Jizzle, Dan, Seamas, those three guys and others actually all play together collectively like we expect. I think that's going to happen. I have confidence that's going to happen. They're doing the right things to make that happen. On the other token, I think you have to continue to find every edge, to maximize every day, to turn over every leaf, and that's what we're doing as a staff and encouraging our players to do. I think there's great character in our locker room. I think they're good guys and they care and they want it. I value that. We have to find a higher level of competitive character, and those are two very different things, right? That's to me the overarching next step for this group. And if we can find the high standard of competitive character, I think that's worth the 1 or 2 possessions a game that could make us feel like we're in a lot better position than we are. I mean, let's face it, Baylor, we got beat. I mean, they beat us. And tip your cap. When somebody makes 11 threes in the second half, like BYU does, I think great teams can overcome stuff like that. But, I mean, most nights that's going to be a hard game to win if somebody makes 11 threes, regardless of how damn good or bad you play. But most of these games in league, we're talking about a couple possessions here when you take those 2 away. I mean, we're talking handful of possessions. I think our competitive character can take a huge leap forward, and that'll be an area that we're going to challenge our guys a little bit.
Is it hard for in 2025 for guys to stay hungry when they're rewarded before success, and everyone's in the same boat? That the whole game has changed. You didn't get what these guys get. How tough is that to keep that desire and hunger?
It's a fair question, Scott. It's a question that I'm not even going to try to tackle and answer today because, I don't believe that is at the heart of our team's issues, right? I'm not saying it's an unfair question in today's society. I'm not going to go down some rabbit hole about 2025. And hey, listen, I'll say this: 2025 in college athletics is different than 2019. I mean, there's probably more changes in a 5 or 6 year period in college basketball and college athletics than in any other time in the history of college athletics in such a short window of time. So those changes create different challenges and different dynamics, and we're all well aware of all of them. I'm not going to, go down that rabbit hole today in this press conference. What I'll tell you is that's not what I believe the issue is here. I think our guys are hungry. I think they want it badly. We're learning what that takes in the Big 12. This group is learning what that takes in the Big 12, and we have to learn quickly.
In your past, you've had tough stretches, but as a player, as a coach.
Yeah.
I think 2012, you and CJ, you lost 11 in a row and then won 10 of 11, kind of back to back. What is it? Do you kind of think back to those stretches and what you do, or do you kind of look at this team in a vacuum and just try to do what this team does best?
Yeah, I think on a personal level, wisdom matters. Like if you ask me when I was 27 and 28, as a Division I head coach, if experience mattered, I'd have told you it has no bearing on anything because I didn't have any of it. But I think when you've been doing it, guys, I've been involved in college basketball now for over 20 years, right? With only 1 year. Since 2002, I've been involved in college basketball every single year since 2002 with the exception of one. And so when you're involved in college athletics or high-level athletics, there's going to be some adversity and some challenge. What I've learned and what I've experienced is those moments are the most important moments to your growth and the most important moments to the success that follows them, as long as you handle them correctly. That gives me great peace, and that's the try to wisdom you try to instill on your players. But they don't matter if you don't handle it appropriately and you don't learn from it and grow from it. And listen, I'd like to take the month of damn January and throw it the hell away. I mean, there's no doubt about that, because I want to win every damn game, and I want our players to have success, and I wanted this program to perform at the level that we all expect it to. But it is an opportunity. This is an opportunity, what we've gone through here, to really learn and grow and find the competitive character and edge that we expect in this program. So you can't just push it. You can't just throw it away. You got to dig in and learn from it. And that's what we're trying to do as a program. And that's what I've learned over my years competing at a very high level.
You have until Sunday to prepare for your next game. Is this 5-game or 5-day layoff coming at the perfect time for you to kind of get back to the fundamental basics within your program and values?
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity right now for two things: to catch breath. We got back at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm not complaining. Again, everybody's dealing with this kind of crap. Excuse me. Everybody's dealing with the kind of travel in our league. But we landed at 5:30 in the morning. So to have a couple days to catch your breath, for our players to get some sleep in their own beds, to get back on East Coast time, I think there's value there, mentally and physically. And then a couple days to maybe get back to the fundamental values of how you play and the time that you have on the floor. Anytime we get that, I think I really value that as a coach.
Looking at West Virginia, they're also on a 3-game losing streak offensively. They've hit some struggles lately. When you turn the page to them, you clearly know a lot about Javon Small. This is a fairly new roster, new coach. Is that even a different challenge that you're not familiar with them wholly?
Yeah, it would be if it was 5 or 6 years ago. That's pretty much normal now. I said this. I was filming the TV show earlier today. I got asked a very similar question. Marshall asked a very similar question, and it's like, Well, yeah, you used to play round robin, so you'd play the same team twice a year, you know, in the league, in most leagues. And if it was a little bigger league, you played most teams twice a year. You know, the same players stayed in programs year after year. So even if you hadn't played against them yet that year, there were similarities from the year before. I think in today's landscape, every game feeling like a new game and with the changing leagues and adding to our league and all that, I mean, every game feeling like a new game for the last 4 years, that's more normal than it's not. So no, I don't find that to be a significant challenge right now. That's probably been different than 5, 6, 7 years ago. But I'd say a lot of college coaches would say the same thing.
Is there anything that sticks out the most for why Dan struggled so much in the past 3-4 games?
No. No. I would tell you guys this, that whether it's Daniel or Jizzle, or any of the guys on our team, they are going through the learning and growth process like everybody. Like Dan Skillings and Jizzle James are in positions on this team that they've never been in on any team before. And at times you can see that they are in the right position, they're prepared for that position, and they're ready to be elite players in this league. And then at times you can see that they're learning in that process. I have so much faith in both of them and others because they belong. They belong not just in this league or on this team, but they belong in the positions they're in, where they're relied upon and they're expected to perform. And there's a lot of basketball left, and I believe both of them are going to perform at a high level. And like anything, sometimes some of the small failures are what they need to take the next step as players. And I think we're seeing Jizzle starting to turn the corner, and I think we'll see the same thing from Dan.
Coach, I know the rebounding recently has been tough. Some of the play down the stretch. It's raised questions about toughness of this team. Do you see that as well? And that's one question. And then you talked about this team's competitive. What was the term? It could take another level.
Competitive character.
Competitive character could take another level. Can you explain that?
So first things first. I don't think there's anything I can say up here to make an excuse for us not being a better rebounding team in competition recently. That's an area that is a standard. If it's not up to standard, it's inexcusable, and I have no words to give an excuse to make it better. It's not good enough. That is what it is. It's being addressed. It's been addressed. It's been worked on. It'll continue to be. I think when you talk about things like loose balls, rebounding, defensive edge and mentality, I think they all apply to competitive character again. And what I mean by competitive character is like a certain will. Listen, everybody's competing, everybody's trying. We're in the Big 12. I mean, if you don't compete and try, you get run out of the gym immediately. There's not a team in this league that doesn't compete or play hard. There's just different levels of it, and we show in stretches, and we've showed in certain games that we can play at that level. We have to do that for 40 minutes consistently and collectively, and we know that, and we have to get our players to not just understand that, to perform that way.
The other night in Utah, Coach Smith said, obviously the way that game went, one guy was going to be happy and one guy was going to be dejected. And he said, it's tough to win in this league. You got to hold serve at home. With that being said, how important is Sunday?
They're all important. I mean, there has not been a game in league. I think we've played 8-9 with 9. There hasn't been a game in league that we've played that that hasn't felt really damn important. And Sunday's no different.
Wes, when you're winning, people are your biggest fans. When you're going through the struggles that you are right now, they're the biggest critics. How do you kind of keep your team focused on the main goal and not kind of buy into some of the outside noise that's, with social media being so prevalent?
Yeah, I get it, and that comes with it. That's part of the responsibility. You don't get it both ways. You don't get to run out to a great crowd and have this passionate fan base, and we all want that, and players want that, and you want to coach somewhere like that, and then get to say boo-hoo when you're struggling and people are on your tail. You don't get it both ways. But on a personal level, I put zero of my day-to-day energy into worrying about that, because it has nothing to do with our ability to go perform better on the court. I care deeply about our fan base. I want it as bad as a human being could want it for our program, for the people that are invested in our program, for the kids in our locker room, for our fans. I want them to, they deserve to experience what I want them to experience. I want it badly. But, living on the roller coaster of the emotions of results, that is a mistake in a leadership position. My only concern in the moment is how to get this team to perform better, continue to grow and learn, and I believe the results will find us, and then people will be excited again. I know that to be true. That is not difficult for me. I've been very fortunate. I've been in a basketball sense, it feels like since 2006, I felt like I've been in a media or fan-based spotlight because I played at North Carolina, where there's a ton of eyes on you that do the same thing as a player. When you're a head coach, even if it's not the same at the mid-major level, there's still people that write stories and have opinions and say things. So this is not a uncomfortable position for me. I'm used to it, right? It's more of a challenge for players. And today's social media culture, that's something I can't relate to as a player. Like I have the ability, I just don't open social media during the season. I don't, by the way, it's the same when we're doing well, because like you just said, when you're doing great, people tell you you're the greatest thing in the world. Well, that's not true, And when you're doing bad, people tell you you're the worst thing in the world, and that's not true either. So I believe it all to be false reality, and we call it rat poison in the locker room, and you can't listen to it, the good or the bad. But I find it easy for me to turn it off. But I also didn't grow up my entire life with social media. My life, I didn't learn screen time. We didn't have iPhones. I think I got a Sidekick when I was in college, and I thought that was the damn coolest thing. And I wore it on my hip, and we could AOL instant messenger each other. That was like, our whole damn team had these big old damn things on our bell loop, and we thought we were the coolest thing walking around Chapel Hill, flipping it up. We didn't have all this crap. So for me at 41, or for coaches, it's easy to and I want our fans to care. I'm okay with it, with all that. I care about them, but it's easy for me to shut that out and realize that getting into the roller coaster, it's not going to help. That's easy. For players that have lived their entire lives on those screens, that's hard. And again, that's not a challenge that's different than anywhere else at a high level with the supportive fan base. But we got to find ways to encourage our kids not to listen when it's too good, and not to listen when it's negative. And that's a real challenge. But I don't blame fans or anything like that, guys. That comes with it. I want the passionate fans. I want people to want it. And if we're being really, really damn honest, the support here has been tremendous. The support for our program, for me, for our players, it's been tremendous. We owe them better fight and better performance, and we all know that.
Houston held Small to 8 points and 7 shots. See anything there that you can borrow?
How you defend Javon Small's obviously a huge key, and the job you do on him. We've played against him multiple times now. He's a terrific player. They do a lot for him. West Virginia does. And again, I still got quite a bit of film to watch, but they do a lot for him with the ball in his hands. They do a lot to get it out of his hands and kind of run him off some stuff and get it back in his hands. So they're very creative in the way they utilize him. Yeah, you're not going to completely hold him down, but you got to make his night as difficult as possible. But they're not just a kind of a one-man band. I think the thing I've been impressed with is how some of those younger players are playing with great confidence, and guys are playing with pop over the course of the season. So obviously I'm diving into the scout, but I've watched them play. I think starting back in November, I think they were in the Battle for Atlantis, and I watched them down there.
And then Wes, obviously heading into Sunday, CJ wasn't able to go versus Utah. Do you just have any update on him heading into West Virginia?
Yeah, he didn't feel great. Back didn't feel great leading into the BYU game, and he tried to give it a go, and in that first rotation came out and just kind of said he couldn't do it, and wasn't able to give it a go in the Utah game. But I think it's I think the medical people have looked at it every way from sideways. I don't want to say something medically I can't say, but I mean they've evaluated it every way you can evaluate it. There's no serious injury, thank goodness. And we just got to get the pain down a little bit and get him feeling right again. And I hope we can get him back for Sunday. I hope Connor Hickman is back to getting some shooting workouts in, and the foot is doing a little bit better. So we're going to start progressing him. But those are obviously some guys that can give us a huge lift and give us some more depth in the backcourt, more scoring.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.